Some people might not want to hear this, but I found that the guitar got a lot easier after I stopped looking for shortcuts. The foundation was the shortcut. It's the quickest way there. Now I want to preface this by saying I am not anti-caged at all. It's a fine system. It's a perfectly good way to get your feet wet. Case in point, when he was 16 years old, I gave a guitar lesson to the guy who blew up the internet with the best caged video of them all. Look it up, Scott Paul Johnson. I think he's up to 12 million views now in that one video alone. And it set him up pretty much to have a self-sustaining thing going on. I was glad to have helped and to have been there to have encouraged him. There's nothing wrong with caged, but I want to show you right now why I don't personally think about it at all when playing. Now, if you're a longtime player or another flat-out pro who's already very invested in the cage system, hold your criticism until the end, please. And if you're just starting out and you're dipping your toes into the water, all I ask is that you just consider this and see if it might work out for you. The fingerboard is 5 regions, and those regions exist along a conveyor belt of sorts. I'm not going to give all the regions away right now, and I'm not going to go into any great length because it would get way too long and be way too complicated, I think, if you're just dipping your toes into the water. But for example, if I were to take a scale that most of us are probably pretty familiar with, an A minor pentatonic box shape starting on the 5th fret. That's not A minor pentatonic to me. And it's not an A minor bar shape. What I see when I play is I see chord tones all over, and I see the guitar based on these 5 regions. So the region that that belongs to would also belong to the C major scale, and it would look like this. Now the fact that I began and ended on the note A doesn't matter. It belongs to this region that is C major. A critic will say that this is caged. I'm going to show you why I disagree. If you were to play from C to C, yes, that looks an awful lot like a G shape in caged. Moved up. But here's where it gets interesting. I think you could learn the entire guitar and everything you need to know about music by pretty much just knowing your major scales, because everything else can then be extracted and pulled out of those, and it also gives you the appreciation you need for intervals and step relationships. A harmonic minor scale would have a 1.5-step gap in it, but the widest gap in a melodic minor scale would only be a whole step, and a major scale is just made up of half steps and whole steps. Chromatic scales would be all half steps. Chromatic scales sound like the circus. But if you go back to the major scale starting point and you realize that it's 7 notes with an 8th note that's the repetition of the octave, those are 7 notes. The 8th note is the octave again. If you cut out the 4th note and you cut out the 7th note, now there are only 5 notes. Well, isn't a 5-note scale a pentatonic scale? Pentatonic comes from the major scale. Now what about A minor pentatonic as opposed to C major pentatonic? Well, a relative minor in terms of basic harmony is just the 6th note of the major scale through the 6th note of the major scale. So if I have the C major scale here in this region of the fingerboard, but this region actually started not on the root, and it's where I had one guitar teacher in college who advocated learning all your scales from the root. You want to start everything from the root. Why? Connect everything. When I was a kid, Joe DiOrio said he thought the guitar was taught the wrong way. He also told me to learn my triads and keep my in my pants, because he said that if you don't, one day you're going to wake up and find the guitar under the bed after 25 years and go, I used to be pretty good at this thing. So, if you start on the 6th note, that's the note A. Well, look, this is the note A. This shape, this region of the fingerboard, actually begins the natural minor mode, the Aeolian mode. That's the relative minor of C major. It's the same thing with the pentatonics. If you have C major pentatonic, and you start on the relative minor note instead of the major note, you've got A minor pentatonic. So you got C major pentatonic, and you got A minor pentatonic. But what about other sounds? Well, once you know that a triad is just 1, 3, 5 for a major triad, and you have an appreciation for the step relationships of the major scale, if you literally just skip every other note in the major scale, you're going to find some interesting things. If you have the major scale here, I go, well, I've got that shape, but I'm going to play the first note, not the second, then play the note that comes after that. I just played a major third. That's my 1 and 3. Then I'm going to skip the next note. Don't play it. Go to the note that follows that. Well, it'd be the 5. Immediately, I've got my major triad. At that point, you can extend it up if you just want to keep on the major triad only. And that'll be enough to get going with a lot of music and to not sound like you're noodling around the fingerboard, because you have strong chord tones that then you can pass through and around. So if you were making up a little solo line, and this is not at all about genre or style, this is about learning music. If you want to have the other notes, you just continue this every other note. So once you have 1, 3, 5, if you skip the next note, don't play it, then you go up, you now have the major 7. If you continue up, skip the next note, don't play it, that'd be the root, but play the note after. Well, now you've got 1, 3, 5, major 7, major 9th. And then if you skip the next note, don't play it, play the one after. Now you've got 1, 3, 5, major 7, major 9, 11. And then you skip the next note, you don't play it, you wind up on the 6, which is also called the 13 because it's above the octave. So 7 plus 6 equals 13. And then if you were to skip the next note and play the one after, you'd wind up back at the root. So those are all your notes. You've got all kinds of stuff in there. You've got the C major triad. You've got D minor triad up on top. Actually, that's a D minor 7. You've got E minor triad here. Or a C major 7 arpeggio. And this is what Mr. Diorio meant when he said he thought the guitar was taught the wrong way. First we learn our scales, then we learn our triads, then we learn our arpeggios. I've got it on the tape. I've got his voice saying this from a workshop room in 1995. It's all connected. That was his point. And it is all connected. If you learn CAGED, you're learning a piece of the pie and you're not connecting the entire pie. It at least gets you enjoying some pie, but there's a lot more to the pie than just the piece of the pie. Be greedy and take the whole pie. You can have the whole pie. The foundations were the shortcut for me. That works throughout all of the modes of the major scale. For instance, if you're playing A natural minor, or if you want to start on the second note of the major scale, that's the note D, where we just take this shape, and I'm already in this region of the fingerboard. It's the only region of the fingerboard I'm going to show you today. But once you appreciate how there's 5 regions and they all rotate along this conveyor belt, I'd be surprised if you keep thinking in terms of CAGED. Carlos Santana loves the Dorian mode. Phrygian would be the third. And if you put a major third into it, you've got a mode of the harmonic minor scale. Well, let's talk about the harmonic minor scale. Sounds scary, right? Take a major scale, play it exactly the same as normal with one change only. One change and that's it. You can take the third note, lower it by 1 fret. So instead of get to that third note, lower it by 1 fret. Now finish it out. That's the melodic minor scale. To get to the harmonic minor scale, you take the melodic minor scale and you're going to lower the 6th note. 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5. This was the 6th. Lower it by 1 fret. And then finish things back out. The interesting thing about the harmonic minor scale is it gives that 1.5 step gap. And that's pretty awkward. Ted Green said that it just didn't sound like jazz to him. I agree with Ted Green. But the harmonic minor scale would be Phrygian dominant. And if you put all that together, Radiohead, I think a Pyramid Song is in Phrygian dominant. If you don't want to be a jazz player, don't be a jazz player. Just learn music. I like Hendrix and blues guitar and Chet Atkins. That's the way I play. But I know how music works. All of this stuff transcends style. You're far better off learning music, not style. So Phrygian dominant is in there. Lydian. I really like the Lydian mode. That's 4/4. Marie, Randy Newman, starts on the 4 in Lydian. And it goes through a diminished chord resolving to the tonic. 3 main functions of diminished chords. That's a whole other video and lesson altogether. I'm reticent of giving it all away, but I'm starting to pretty much just give it all away. It's all contained in there. The scales you want, the arpeggios you want, the chord tones you want, the triads you want. I don't see this as Cowboy G moved up. It's a fine way to see it. It'll get you going with basic soloing, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. But when you start to feel like you're getting stuck on the fingerboard and you don't know why, and you're either playing pentatonic scale cliches, or you're stuck in a major scale and you don't know how to get out of that, or you're fine as long as it's over the first chord of the tune, but when it goes to the second or the third or the fourth chord of the tune, you don't know what to play. All of that is in here, I promise you. So once you appreciate that, you can move it along this conveyor belt and it all applies. If I have this shape, well, that's now the same shape, just playing an A. If I move it down here, I've moved to an open position, mixing fretted notes with open strings. G major scale. If I move it up here, D major scale. And when I play the chord, I'm not playing it out of that shape, but I don't see things as localized that way. It's not like I'm in caged here, so I must play caged this chord, and I must play the scale here too. It's not at all how I see the guitar. It's not at all how I visualize chord tones. It's not how I hear music. It's not how I spontaneously come up with ideas when I need to improvise something. The other thing that tends to scare people off is when it gets into diminished and augmented and minor 7 flat 5, which would be half diminished. All of that is in here. If you want the Locrian mode, it's just the 7th note to the 7th note. So here's C major scale. if I start one note under and end one note before. It matches that sound. And yeah, the guitar is not in totally perfect tune and the strings are dead, but just to show you the concepts, that's how I view the guitar. Everything is seamlessly connected. And I learned that through one foundation after another after another. And you can start getting there right now. You don't have to learn everything that I learned over 30 years in order to do that overnight. You can learn just one piece and make huge progress forward. So I hope that helps and at least gives some framework. I didn't hold your hand through the process, but I wanted to give you the right concept and idea for you to then go and start discovering it for yourself. So keep at it. I hope you enjoy the process. Have a lot of fun with the guitar every single day, and I'll see you again in a little while.